Alright, aloha guys. In this video, we're actually going to start our project. So make sure you're on Checklist2, and we're going to be setting up the About screen. So one thing that we should probably start off with is I should probably show you guys what the storyboard will look like so you guys will know what screen I'm talking about. So here we go here, and you have this in your packet in case you have any questions. So we right now are going to be building screen 1, and that's associated with checklist 2. Okay, so when I say that we're building screen 2, screen 3, screen 4, screen 5, you know what checklist that you should be using. Okay guys? So refer to this if you have any questions. Alright, we're going to start a new Xcode project. So let's go into the dock here, and you want to click on that. And if you remember, we're going to start a new Xcode project. So we're going to click here, and everything should be set up here. So we want to create a single view application. We're going to hit next. And let's call this Summer Bridge. Okay, Summer Bridge app, right? Make sure everything's filled in here as such, and you're going to hit next. Make sure you save on the desktop, as I mentioned earlier, and hit create. Great, we just created our app project. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the project navigator. We are going to go to main.storyboard. Okay. Right now, this here is called the document outline, this panel right here. This panel doesn't always need to be open, so we're going to collapse it, and this guy right here will hide the document outline, just like it says. Okay, so now we have a lot more room on our storyboard. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to resize the view controller, and I'm just going to call it VC. Okay, we're going to resize the VC, and we want to make sure we're in the attributes inspector, and we're going to resize it. So right here, we're going to go to iPhone 4.7 inch. Okay, and you're going to be doing this to each VC that you bring into your storyboard. Okay, we've resized our view controller. Now another important thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a navigation controller. This is a really important step. So how we're going to do this is we're going to select the VC. We're going to go up to editor. We're going to go to embed in navigation controller. Okay, and this is what's going to happen. All right, does everybody see that? Okay, let me just move everything into view so you can see what's going on. Okay, and we're going to need to resize the navigation controller. So go down to 4.7 inch. Okay. All right, now we are going to be adding in a few user interface elements. In particular, we're going to drag and drop a label, an image view, and a text view onto our view controller. So the first thing we need to do right now, you notice that we are zoomed out. So we need to zoom in, double click on the space, the white space, and down here, we are going to type in label. We're going to drag and drop that label right in. And actually, if you follow this guideline, you can go drop it right into the center. Next thing we're going to do is drop in an image view. So drag and drop, just like that. And lastly, we're going to drop in our text view. And just like that. If you want to make any changes, you can stop the video and go ahead and do that right now. Otherwise, just keep going. Just keep continuing. All right, so we have our VC. We've just dropped 3 user interface elements on top of it. The one thing that we need to do now is we actually need to tell the VC that we actually have dropped 3 user interface elements on it. It actually doesn't know that it's there. The only way that we can connect the two is through the .m file. So in order to get the .m file to pop up on the right hand side, we need to select the view controller that we're interested in, and we need to go up here into the assistant editor. Okay, right now we're in the standard editor mode. Okay, so we need to go into the assistant editor. Okay, now we've got our view controller.m file on our right hand side. How do we know it's the view controller.m file? We can actually see line 2 here that it is the view controller.m file. This is the name of our app, Summer Bridge app. And at interfaces is a really important area. That's where we're going to make all of our outlets, which I'm going to show you in a second. But since we're on the implementation file, the .m file, I want to talk about a few things. Particular, if we look at line 18, we are on a line here which is a method, and that method name is viewDidLoad. And here it says void in the parentheses. That means that this particular method doesn't return anything. A couple important things to note here is that you always have 2 curly braces that follow a method. And within the curly braces, we refer to this area as the block. And actually, I'm going to make a comment here and just say block is within the curly braces. Okay, and that's where we're going to be writing all of our code. You can't write it in the front of the curly, and you can't write it on the outside of the curly. Otherwise, those lines of code will not execute. Right? So let's go ahead and make those outlets. Okay, so what I mean by we're making those outlets is we're telling the view controller now that it has these 3 user interface elements on it. First, we want to select the user element, and we want to make sure you get that little hand going there, and you're going to control drag. And now a dialog box comes up, and you'll see that the connection is an outlet, and we're going to name this connection, this IB outlet, and we're going to call it, in this case, we're going to call it the about label. Okay, a couple things about the naming here, the naming convention. The reason why I say it's the about label is because this is the about screen, and then the reason why I put label on as part of the name is because this UI element is a label, so we want to include that in the naming. And another thing you'll notice here is that I have a lowercase a and a uppercase L, and this is called camel casing in programming. The first letter of the first word is always lowercase, and the second letter of the second word, the first letter of the second word is always uppercase. So you'll notice capital L here and capital A over there. I mean lowercase a. Okay, so that's camel casing for you. So we're going to hit connect, and now we have made our outlet. In case you're wondering whether or not the connection, like what this one is connected to, you can see that if you hover over the circle, it tells you what UI element you're connected to. So let's go ahead and make the other connections here, and we're going to call that image view 1. And notice that I capitalized the N, which I don't want to do, so I want to change that to image view 1. But you notice that now, okay, because I had deleted something, it actually disconnected the outlet. So we just want to drag it from here and then reconnect it. Okay, so that's a little bit of troubleshooting for you guys. And then we're going to create an outlet for the text view. Text view 1. Okay, and being really careful about your typing there. All right. Okay, next thing we want to do is we're all good here, so let's go back into the standard editor mode. Okay, now we're just looking at our storyboard. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to drag 2 buttons onto our view controller. All right. And what we want to do is we want to open up the objects library and we're going to type button here. And we're going to put 1 button down here and we're going to put another button right here. All right. And we're going to call this one We'll cut you for now, and we're going to call the other one Naki. Okay, so we got those 2. And what we're going to do now is we have our 2 buttons, but these buttons don't actually lead anywhere. And that's because, first of all, we need to add in another view controller, and then we need to make a connection or a segue between one of the buttons and the new view controller. Okay, so that's what we're going to be creating now is a segue. But first we need a new view controller. So and make sure you grab a view controller, not a table view controller, not a split view controller. We just want a normal view controller. Okay, now take a moment to resize that, 4.7 inch. And just take some time to align it. And we are going to create a segue. So segue, we're going to select the button we're interested in. In this case, it's going to be the Huaka'i button. We're going to go control, drag all the way to the view controller, let go, and this dialog box comes up and we want to select show. Okay. Now let's just expand this a little bit. Now, how do we know the segue has been made and what button it's been made to is we can click on that segue and it clearly shows us that it's from the Huaka'i button. All right. So what did we just do here is we started a new project, right? We embedded a navigation controller. We added in 3 UI elements. Well, actually, we added 5 UI elements, all here. We created 3 outlets, IB outlets. We created a segue, and we also a segue to another view controller. All right, that's it for this video, and we'll see you guys for checklist number 3 video. Aloha.